goodness. So we're into item 15, and colleagues, 15.1.1 has passed on consent, which brings us to 15.1.2, report to Halifax Regional Council regarding the removal of X as a social media platform for the municipality. And I guess we'll put the motion on the floor, and perhaps Councillor White, you would like to do that.
I move that Halifax Regional Council direct the CAO to discontinue the use of all active X accounts by July 15th, 2025, using a phased approach that will transition to the Blue Sky social media platform.
I see the second was Councillor Hartling, and I'll see if there's any discussion other than my own coming up on the list. Would you like to say any more, Councillor White?
Not at this time, no.
Okay. Councillor Hensby, please.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I understand the intent of this, especially with the tensions with Musk and everything else, and Tesla and all the other companies that he owns and stuff. But you know, how I read this is, all active accounts that include the councillors' accounts, or just the municipal administration accounts.
Through the mayor to the councillor, we have Breton Murphy here with us, Managing Director of Corporate Communications, who will answer your questions.
Test 1, 2. Thank you. Brett Murphy, Managing Director of Corporate Communications. Through you to the chair, the question is regarding which these impact. It would be all of the X accounts that are currently active on the platform. So we have approximately 8 accounts currently that are with X. Those would discontinue.
Those are our municipal administration accounts. So the councillors and independent accounts won't be affected by this.
Correct. These are the accounts overseen by Corporate Communications on behalf of the organization.
Okay. Well, Mr. Mayor, I've said in the past that I don't like censorship of any sort, and even though X from time to time may have some revolting opinions on there from time to time, I believe that my stuff I like to post is not revolting at all, and I like to maintain the use of it because it has a broader penetration in the marketplace, I guess you could say, with the general public. You know, I've also opened up a Blue Sky account, but it doesn't have the amount of followers as my X account has. So if it comes a day that the Blue Sky passes the X, perhaps I'll retire the X at that time. But in the meantime, I'll be keeping my own personal X account intact. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hensby. Deputy Mayor Mancini, please.
Oh, that's for you.
Oh, that's for me? Okay, thank you. Okay, I don't see any other names on the list, colleagues, so I'm just going to ask the Deputy Mayor to swap with me for a moment here.
Mr. Mayor, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. I was trying not to spill your coffee there.
Yeah, well, you have a sip on the other side.
Okay, thank you. I am left-handed, so it takes care of itself. Well, I understand and appreciate the intention of Councillor White's motion and agree with in fact agree with it. But what concerns me is the timing of it. X is an important means of sharing information. We may not all agree with the owner or a lot of the discourse that occurs on X, but there is a great proportion of our community that relies on X for communication and for information regarding HRM services and public emergencies and so forth. And I, at this time scale, I'm worried about restricting people from important sources of information. The timeline calls for coming fully off of X. I think it's in July of this summer. And that is, we're going to be right in the middle of wildfire season. I don't know if that's the right time to start to restrict tried and true and familiar lines of communication. And it feels like we might be communications for the public as we head into that season. I also note that removing it now doesn't align with what the province is doing, doesn't align with what CBRM is doing. There are some other municipalities across the country who are heading in this direction. But here at home, although there are 8 accounts, as Breton mentioned, included among them are not the police, the libraries, or Halifax Water. And then when I think about the very important motion put on the floor by Councillor St. Amand around overall communications, I have a higher level of comfort getting through the busy summer season when people aren't necessarily paying attention to our communications decisions, and relying on Councillor St. Amand's motion to move us off at that time. So I'll just leave it there. And I thank Councillor White for bringing this important thing to our attention.
Councillor Kent, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I am conflicted a little bit more since when we put this motion on. I don't use X, or formerly Twitter. I haven't for a long time for the reasons of the toxicity on the site. Didn't find it particularly helpful to the work that I did. I am concerned about emergency alerts and things, not the system emergency alerts, but alerts that are people would be looking for through all means of social media, frankly. And so I have a question for you, Brett, wondering, do we have any form of data on the reach and the clicks that would allow us to see if people are actually accessing that information that might be going out from us? I think that's an important piece for us to consider. We've not had a particular, even a public, I feel like we're missing a public link where we should have some insight on whether or not the public thinks we should be doing this. I think they're the only ones that might be able to tell us whether or not it's really useful. But Brett, maybe if you could answer that question, that would be helpful to me.
Thanks very much, Councillor, through you to the chair. The short answer on the X, in terms of finding it, the data on X has been really missing for a lot of users for some time because of changes in its operational functionality, creating more of a pay system in order to access those metrics. So if we look at the use of X in order to share information, whether it be a service disruption or an urgent matter related to an emergency, we know that we have an average engagement rate. So the amount of people who interact with the posts, it would be considered on average, and that's kind of ranged between 2 and 6% of the followers. And the number of impressions is highly significant. But I also always have a caveat with impression numbers because they can be a bit of witchcraft for folks. So what does that mean? There's a large number. What is the real meaning behind that? So we know that it is used when we consider the number of people who are currently following our X account, that there's about 78,000 people on the main handle. We have 400,000 across all of our accounts. And so, yes, it is as a proportion, it's a significant amount. And when we look at transitioning to another platform, an alternate platform, the goal would be to get that buy-in, get the adoption rate so that we're growing that and allowing residents to understand if you're looking for the kind of information you found on X, in future you'll find it on this other platform, and we're recommending Blue Sky. In terms of feedback, you asked a question about, are we hearing from residents? The surveys that we did indicate that residents are very supportive of moving away from X,
Okay.
and are supportive of adopting Blue Sky.
Wonderful. Okay, great. Thank you. That's really helpful.
Thanks very much, and we'll move on to Councillor Austin, please.
Was next. But you haven't spoke yet, did you? Oh, very brief. Oh, motion on the floor. Sorry about that. So I'm going to support this. I mean, I actually closed my own X account. I still leave it there, but I no longer post on it. I no longer check it. And I haven't missed it. Haven't had any residents reach out saying, geez, I really miss you on Twitter. That's happened. So for whatever that's worth. Like, I think the moment we're in right now as a country is, I mean, X has become very politicized. The owner of that, of X, is part of a government that means us harm. And you know, very openly, symbolically, which I think makes X very different than Facebook or, you know, any of the other kind of giants out there, at least to some extent. And so, you know, to me, this is an opportunity for us to, you know, make a symbolic kind of statement and difference on this particular issue. So I'm supportive of it. And you know, in terms of reach and permutations, I mean, there's two things I think to consider. One is like, let's not overstate the value of X. It wasn't so long ago that the RCMP were under so much criticism around Portapique for just relying on X. So I mean, this is not our only information source, and it shouldn't be. So you've got that piece, but if none of us ever leaves it, if it continues to be the place where we're posting all this stuff, like it's a chicken and the egg. If you want Blue Sky to actually be the replacement, you need to go there. If you're still going to be on X, you're not going to get those folks looking for your information on Blue Sky. So I think it is a bit of a chicken and the egg. I think there are other ways to communicate with people other than X, especially in emergencies. I don't think we need to rely on this, and I think the staff report gives a decent roadmap to get off of it. And I think, like, you know, to that free speech kind of argument, you're free to speak there. Doesn't mean you're obligated to speak there. We can choose where we engage in our own free speech. So I don't think there's anything in taking away from that piece. So I'm supportive of the staff recommendation, and I think I'd urge colleagues to as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Saint Amand, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm inclined to support this as well. And for me, it's sort of the bigger picture coming from the motion that we all passed just in our last meeting. The notion of, you know, that 30,000-foot view, looking at how we communicate as a municipality and finding the right tools to ensure that our residents feel adequately informed about what's going on. And yes, you know, Twitter, now X, has a certain percentage of our audience that is following the municipality across the multitude of business unit accounts that we currently operate. But it's also the case that it too is subject to algorithms and various other things. So it's no more or less effective than any other social media platform that is subject to the commercial whims that drive the audience engagement. The more vitriolic a post, the more engagement it gets, the more often it gets served to people. It also has the challenge of the fact that you have to have an X account in order to see the most current post that's been posted. I just visited the Halifax Fire account. I'm not logged into X, and therefore the most recent post it showed me was from 2020. Meanwhile, Councillor Gillis visited it while logged in. It showed one from just a few days ago. It makes a big difference as to how effective a communication tool is, the rules by which it has to play, the rules that it uses to determine who gets to see what, when, why. And that was one of the reasons that there was such a response when the RCMP used Twitter to communicate with people during an emergency. So I think one of the things that my motion that we passed aims to do is to try to find the best possible mechanisms that we have available to us today to communicate effectively with our residents. And it's entirely possible that an outcome of that staff report would similarly recommend a move away from X, if not for philosophical reasons, for just practical ones, like I just mentioned. So that's the reason that I would support this. Whether the timeline is too soon or not soon enough, I'm not going to weigh in on that. I think that comes from the experience of the Court Comms people that have gone through this exercise in determining whether or not it's an effective tool for us and whether it's right for us to continue to maintain a presence on that platform. I think the broader picture is to look for the best way for us to effect communication with our residents, and how we as councillors choose to communicate with our residents is entirely independent of how the municipality communicates with residents. And I think as long as we conflate those two, it's a lot harder to make the proper separation between the tools and technologies that we have at our disposal to communicate. So I'm in support of this, and I hope my fellow councillors will be as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hartling, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. My question is that, well, I'm wondering, just because of timelines, if we have an anticipated date that we could expect Councillor St. Amon's report to return to council. If we're talking about timelines, do we have a ballpark idea of when we can expect that back?
Through the chair to the councillor, it's my understanding in the last discussion we had, recognizing the breadth of the request, it would be a number of months, and we would, connect with the CAO to confirm that it makes sense in terms of the deliverable associated with a jurisdictional scan and a comprehensive review. But I would be thinking it would be in the 6 to 8 month range, but I would again need to connect with the CAO to ensure the priorities are meeting that of council.
Okay, and my follow-up question is, I took the survey and I encouraged other people to take the survey. What I didn't see, and what I don't think I saw in the report, is for people who use X, whether they also use other other forms of social media. So if you're an X user, you're very likely also a Facebook user. You're very also an Instagram user. So in my mind, I don't see how eliminating X means that we are no longer able to communicate to whatever the number of people is. Do you have that metric on hand where they're exclusively using X?
Through the chair to the councillor, we don't have a breakdown of those who use specific to the exclusion of others. And there's often a lot of overlap in terms of users across a number of platforms, depending upon the type of information they're seeking and the community that they want to engage with.
Okay, perfect. I will also be supporting this motion. I think for all the reasons that have already been spoken to. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Councillor Purdy, please.
Mr. Mayor, and my question is for you, Brendan. I'm just wondering why was this motion not combined with Councillor St. Amon's motion? I mean, I feel ambiguous about this, quite honestly. It's social media, and the most important aspect of this is how we facilitate the best communication to the residents for just information purposes. So I'm just wondering, why was this moved so quickly and not combined with the big overall scan of all the communication social media options?
Through the chair to the councillor, we basically tackled them in order of request. The reason why we were able to expedite this particular request for a staff report was the work had already been begun in earnest by the team over a number of months, where we had undertaken an assessment recognizing the changing landscape and a lot of volatility, particularly with respect to a couple platforms, including X. So that allowed us to bring this forward in a quicker fashion and then take direction. But again, we would defer to council if there's a request to bundle a requests, but we took them in the order in which they were presented to us to respond.
So then obviously you don't anticipate this interfering with the other motion that in any way?
I don't anticipate any interference or conflict in terms of the recommendations we're making. In terms of the timeline, depending upon direction from council, we would then look to adjust accordingly.
And then from what you just said, the municipality seems to have already been taking steps to eliminate X as a platform and look at different platforms so you were already on this road before the motion came forward.
We had begun the assessment process without kind of preconceiving our ultimate recommendation, but it was clear that we needed a fulsome review and to identify alternatives given the landscape. So yes, we were down the road of identifying an alternative to X given the situation in the social media environment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Councillor Cleary, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't going to weigh in, but several comments that were made just kind of forced me to. So the first one is on the idea of using Twitter or X for emergencies and alerting people. As has already been indicated, it's been criticized if authorities only use that. We have our own HFX alerts. We have the alert ready system in Nova Scotia, which thankfully is now being used properly. And so those are the appropriate ways. If you need to get an emergency message out to someone, you send it on their cell phone. The idea of censorship or free speech, which isn't a Canadian concept, freedom of expression is in our Charter of Rights. If you're using that, then I think Councillor Austin sort of touched on this. You don't understand it then. So you choose which medium you want to express yourself in. If you're saying we have to be on X, then we should also be advertising in the National Enquirer, and we should be running stuff on Rebel News, and we should be on Truth Social. Like, that just doesn't make any sense at all. The owner of X has stated that Canada isn't a real country. And he's working with the orange guy down south to literally destroy our economy. How would we support that? Now, in terms of Blue Sky, as Mr. Murphy has suggested, Blue Sky is a more open and accessible platform compared to what's now become of Twitter or X. The algorithm has changed, the way users can access statistics about the platform has changed, and so it's less useful, really, than it used to be. I've been checking on Blue Sky. All major media in the local market are representative on the platform. And in fact, someone has already created a Halifax account. Don't know if that was us or not. And hopefully if it's someone else, then they'll give it to us. But there's also a Halifax Mirror account. So basically they're taking all the tweets that are going out there, or I don't know, what's X now? Is it X's? I don't know. All the tweets, they just literally, there's a bot that copies all those and posts it to that Halifax Mirror site on Blue Sky. So already we're on Blue Sky, and both of these accounts have thousands of users. So we're already halfway there. So I'm fine with this. This is a good thing for us to be doing, to constantly be reevaluating how we communicate with our residents, what we're communicating. And I'm also looking forward to information coming out on how we can develop our own platform and strategy if we choose to go down that road of communicating the most important information. And more than that, because these are, although they're interactive, they're really one-way platforms from a news perspective. But what I want is a platform that helps us dialogue with our residents to get feedback, especially from groups that don't normally have a chance to give us that kind of feedback. That would excite me. So I'm looking forward to that kind of information coming. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much. Councillor Morris, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm wondering what you would see as, if you could say a bit more about the reputational risks for HRM of staying with X because of not just the national security concerns that we've been talking about, but also disinformation, the sharing of data with third parties and that sort of thing. So it's almost like we endorse X if we stay on. So I'm wondering if you could say a bit more about that, please.
Through the chair to the councillor, yes, part of the assessment that we undertook was looking at, what we would call like an instability of the platform, and given a lot of changes with its operational function, but also looking at, what we would consider, the values of the municipality as defined and how aligned they are. And there was definitely, we had identified challenges with respect to transparency, with respect to evidence-based accessibility. There's a number of areas that was of concern. And given the changes that can be with little notice, that uncertainty in and of itself creates, I think, risk for users of the platform, while also being mindful that we try to balance ensuring we're going to where our residents are as much as possible, but not to the exclusion of using channels that don't fit our needs. So balancing those two becomes the priority for us.
Great. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Councillor White, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks for the conversation, everyone. You've mostly hit on the points that I wanted to. I just wanted to touch base on first. It seems like the mayor's hesitation is on emergency alerts. So I wanted to highlight on that, just that X is not a medium for emergency alerts. We have Halifax alert system for that, and it was widely criticized by the families, victims in Portapic to rely on X as a mean of communication. We do not want to be doing that. We do not want residents to think that they're going to get timely information on this platform. Second thing, feedback. There's the comments were quite entertaining actually in the staff report of what people are feeling. And I will say I got a lot of emails when this motion came out in the first place, people mostly in support of doing this. And as far as timing goes, I feel like some people were frustrated. Why can't you just do this now? Why do we have to wait for a staff report? So most people want this and they want it yesterday. I also just comment, I did receive an email from a mayor across the country who had done this in BC and was applauding our move here to go here. So I think this is about leadership and our values, and this just doesn't fit with them. And I'd like your support in moving away from the platform. Thank you.
Thank you very much, colleagues. I don't see any other names on the board. I'd just like to add maybe that I really appreciate the conversation and debate, and with the answers from Breton and some further clarification, I'm much more hospitable to the motion now. There are some things I hadn't heard before. I will say that I agree with just about everything that I heard said, and will continue to have concerns about X, whether we subscribe to it or not, and appreciate the effort to get us out of there. So thank you. And shall we have the question? Sorry, colleagues, the motion passes. Thank you very much. And with that, colleagues, we will move on to item 15.5.1, Deputy Mayor Mancini update on